So I used to be unbelievably shy, and I made myself not shy. And honestly, it's one of the proudest things I've ever done. So I kind of want to share how I did that, especially since I keep telling y'all I'm going to tell you and I keep forgetting. So the reason why I think it's important to share this is I learned through my own experience that, like self-knowledge and like knowing yourself, that's a good thing. But also it keeps us trapped into being like, oh, I'm just shy. Oh, I'm just awkward. That's just how I am. And then that actually keeps us from ever having any motivation to change. Because I was shy, but like I didn't want to be shy. And I wasn't shy because that's who I am. And honestly, this is one reason why I have come to realize that community is like one of the most important things that we can build in our lives. Way more important than romantic relationships or anything else. Because within community, that's who I've found myself. Now, if you're with the wrong community, people who are really not pushing you to do better and grow and all that stuff, they can pull you backwards. I learned that in high school from hanging out with a bunch of people like myself who were really self-destructive, and I started doing things that are not actually even what I wanted to do. I just kind of went along with it. So who you hang out with and who you surround yourself with does impact who you are. And so I surround myself with people who push me to do better and be better. And in high school, all my friends were guy friends mostly, and they were not pushing me to do better and be better. But my two closest friends were my best friends that were girls. And we would go out and eat like pizza every Friday night and just like drive around and whatever. And they consistently were like, why don't you act this way in front of the guys? Because I'm like pretty crazy, like good crazy. I'm just, I don't know. This is just who I am. I'm like really hyper. Part of it's ADHD. I've started to realize. Like my husband calls me Tornado Rainbow. I have so much energy, but it's pretty colorful and sometimes it's destructive, but usually not anymore. I hope. And they were just like, your voices. You're like you're so like funny, and why don't you act this way in front? And I was like, I don't know. Well, I know now. I thought I had to hide who I was in front of men. And it's really women, the women in my life have consistently pulled me out of me, right? So, I got in a lot of trouble in high school. I got arrested. I was on house arrest for a whole summer for and whatever. That's another story I can go into later on because it's wild. But I kind of had to like basically start over my senior year of high school, start over with all new friends. I was basically, instead of being a part of like a group of like people who just, and did like, and all kinds of crazy stuff, I kind of went out on my own. And I was like, what do you got, like a free agent? And I realized by being cut off from the people I was comfortable with, that it actually was really fun, and that I could make friends easy, and I didn't have to hide behind my friends. And so that last year of college, of high school, I was really confident that I could go out on my own, that I didn't need this friend group for the rest of my life. So when I applied to college, and this is one thing, I talk a lot of crap about my dad, but one thing that one of the many things I'm grateful for is he paid for my out-of-state college tuition. My mom could never have afforded that, and he took that up because he knew that I needed to get away from, I'd gotten in so much trouble. He was willing to pay for me to get away and find myself. And if it meant leaving the state and going to the mountains, and that's what I did. I went to Montana, and I didn't know anyone in Montana. And I remember I showed up at the University of Montana like a week before anybody else was there. My roommate wasn't there. I was all alone, and for like a good 3 days, I just walked around. I mean, again, a lot of students hadn't shown up, but some people were there, and I just walked around, just be like in a prison of my own making. Now, granted, I had a lot of childhood trauma. I had a lot of things like that make sense why I was like so afraid of what people thought of me and all that stuff. But also, like, I just intuitively knew, like, that's not who I am, as being this shy girl, right? So I remember, for 3 days, I didn't talk to anybody. And I do believe that like desperation is a good motivator. And so I learned by being forced to make myself meet people, I would do it when I had no other choice. When it wasn't easy to just have friends, they weren't just, it wasn't easy to, just go to someone by default. So after 3 days of not talking at all, I heard some girls hanging out in my dorm hallway. I heard the door was open, they're all hanging out, and I walked back and forth a couple times and like looked in there like, oh, I want to go in there so bad. And so I was like, all right, Melanie, like, You're not going to make friends if you don't do something. And so I stood outside the door, like, here's the door. And I stood outside the door and I was just listening. I was like, yeah, they sound really nice and cool. Until I was like, okay. Like I talked myself up. I was like, you can do it. You can do it. Just go say hi. Just go say hi. I got made fun of in high school. Anytime I try to do a presentation, I'd be like, and my teachers would be like, oh, are you doing a presentation or a dance? Because I'd just be like, I know this is hard to believe, y'all, that I was so shy, painfully shy, but that's not who I am. I believe my shyness was a lot of a trauma response. And I pushed myself to become the person I believed I truly was and fight against that way of being. So eventually I was like, okay, I took a breath and I just like stood in front of the doorway and I was like, hi. And I my friends actually relayed this story back to me because I barely remember this moment, but apparently I was like, hi, I'm Melanie and I live like right there. And I was just, I just want to say hi. Like, that's so awkward. It's so scary. And my one friend, Danae, was like, it was so cute. You were just like this, like little bunny, like this, like you were so scared, but you were just like, like we just loved you right there because you were just so authentically scared and like pushing yourself. Those girls became my best friends through all of college. And it was such a good lesson to me about pushing myself to do things I'm terrified of. So like a few years later, I went, all my friends were doing something else and I wanted to kind of meet more people. And through the university, they had this like backpacking trip in Utah and I didn't know anybody. And I was like, that seems cool. So I went on a backpacking trip for a week with people I didn't know, and those people became very good friends of mine. My first summer when I was in college, I was like, okay, how can I do this again? Because once you kind of like push yourself, you continue to push yourself. You feed off of those little bitty rewards. Like these little manageable steps of just putting myself out there, and then out of desperation, forcing myself to be uncomfortable and take chances. And so, I worked in Yellowstone my summer. I made like $4.25 an hour and lived in dorms. And, the job was terrible. I served like ice cream and lasagna and got treated like crap, because it's a corporation that whatever. But the people I met there changed my life. I made so many good friends that summer and I showed up not knowing anybody. So then like I got kind of addicted, not addicted, but like, I loved putting myself in situations where I had to go up and talk to people. So I traveled, I went to school in Sweden on an exchange program. Didn't know anyone in Sweden. Didn't know anything about Sweden. I traveled by myself all over. Like I backpacked for like a month all by myself all over Ireland. I slept in the back. I didn't have much money, so I wasn't staying in which was good. Dangerous, but I was like, hitchhiking. And I was just like throwing myself out there, like just literally meeting people all the time. And then after college, I moved to New Mexico. Didn't know anyone there to become a raft guide. And becoming a raft guide helped me helped me with my public speaking stuff. Because it's one thing to like, oh, look at you rolling over. It's one thing to put yourself out there and challenge yourself repeatedly in, like one-on-one and in small groups. It's a whole nother level of having to stand up in front of like 10 people or 20 people or 50 people or more and give a safety speech and pretend like you know what you're talking about. Not pretend, but like, I knew what I was talking about, but pretend like I had confidence. Pretend like I had a sense of authority, even though I was scared shitless. If y'all know anything, my first day on the river in New Mexico, someone drowned right in front of me. We were the first people on the scene and had to do okay? But the more I pushed myself, the more I wanted to take bigger challenges. And then when I went to New York, I was so used to talking in front of groups of people on the river and entertaining people. Then I took it to the next level, being on stage, doing it in front of hundreds of people. Like this shy little girl in high school who couldn't even do a presentation without being shamed by the teacher. I love talking in front of people now. So be careful of like putting yourself in a box. Oh, I'm just awkward. That's just how I am. I'm an introvert. I'm not saying you're not, but you don't have to be. It doesn't have to define you. If you don't like it, you can actually change it slowly but surely. Little small challenges. I was shy, but that's not who I am. We're always evolving and growing, but I had to push myself to do it.